but you're saying I don't have to pay federal taxes. But what about the people that, okay, they're in trouble, they've got problems with their taxes, they are listening to you, they decide to go sign up for your Freedom Law School, they hear you out and they say, wow, okay, I don't have to pay taxes anymore. At what point could a person start? They would have to clear up all their other tax issues, make sure that they have no problems with the IRS, there's no back owed taxes before they could really start this?
Nope. They can immediately start living a free life. Do not sign any more 1040 form under oath, swearing you owe the IRS money. No more rope around your neck to go to prison for 9 years for that one signature on that 1040 form.
Do any accountants work with you? Do you find that accountants say, look, Paymon, I hear you, but I don't want to file I don't want to file any of your, well, you don't file taxes at all because you live in Florida. So you're saying you don't even need an accountant at all, do you?
That's right.
Okay. But I would think
to answer your question, yes. I've had multiple accountants and CPAs check out Freedom Law School, and they said, wow, Paymon, you're right. Because everything I say, Kim, is based upon U.S. government's official legal websites. I don't give no opinion. I rely only on their own official legal websites at freedomlawschool.org. It's all there for free.
So they've been able to deceive people into paying income tax. People aren't fighting back on this. It is surprising and shocking that over the years, from 1913, tiny little tax, and then of course the wars. It's always war, right? I mean, it's just like 9/11. After 9/11, they were like, oh, okay, now we have to take your freedoms away. You have to take your shoes off every time you go through an airport still after 9/11. You can't, I mean, it's just absurd. They never give us these freedoms back. It's always under the guise of we've got to do it for safety and security. And so they've been able to inflate the taxation on us over the years. I mean, maybe it would have been okay if they just said, okay, Social Security tax and some sort of medical tax so that you can go. Because I mean, I hear you with the ER, and I know the ER is a giant money suck. But the problem is that there's a lot of people who don't. I mean, what is the alternative? I don't want to, I hear these horror stories of students that travel to Thailand, for example, or other places, and they get into a car accident and they rush to the ER on their deathbed, nearly dying. And they turn them away because they can't access the cash that they need in order to pay for the services right then and there. They can't get a hold of their families in the United States, and their kids die. I mean, so many of these. So we want an emergency room that is actually going to treat people and do that type of care, whether or not they can pay for it. I don't want firefighters, for example, to show up to my house and say, are you able to pay for we'll put out the fire, but can you pay for it?
By your state taxes. Remember, the firemen are paid by your state taxes. And about the medical care, again, remember, your country, your state can choose to have taxes to pay for those things. The people of the state can choose, hey, we want to have this tax or that tax to cover people at emergencies at the hospital. We'll take care of them. That's what America is so beautiful. 50 countries. Each country can do these things as the people choose to. We don't need the federal overlords in that distant DC empire to rule us in that, and then use it against us with the DOJ, FBI, literally working against American people. And Homeland Security is have open borders for invaders to come here illegally, because they want to eventually have these guys vote communist Democrat, so America becomes a communist country and you could never get it back again. That's their goal.
Yeah, I mean, I one thing that made me really appreciate the United States was the COVID pandemic. I have to say that I used to kind of dream about living in other countries, thinking that they ran better, or they had better governments or whatever. But the COVID pandemic did teach me that we do have 50 different countries in this country. And if you don't like we saw many people move around in the country from the COVID pandemic when they said, wait a minute, this is crazy in California. I'm getting out of here and I'm moving to Florida. I'm moving to Texas. I'm moving somewhere else. I don't want to live under this. I live in LA. We had really strict restrictions here, but I'm from Idaho, and I would fly home to Idaho and visit, and I would be, I'm free. I'm free. I can actually go around and do what I want because Idaho didn't have all those restrictions. And so I appreciated that a lot more. And so I think you have a point that because that's kind of always been my issue with the libertarian viewpoint. As much as I agree with libertarians on so many things, I could never be a full libertarian because I say, oh yeah, but I don't want the firefighter to show up to my house and say, yeah, well, let me see
Mhm,
what kind of gems you got to make sure you
mhm,
can pay for this, if we're going to rescue your house.
mhm,
But you're right. If it's just okay, well, the state would decide. So you would decide in your state, your little country, your enclave would decide how you
mhm,
want to run. And if you don't like it, you could move to another enclave. You could move to another country inside of the federation, right?
mhm.
And you could
Correct.
say, well,
America is a union of 50 states is something we're not taught in a public school system. Again, who wants to have the firefighter to stop and say, I'm not sure if I want to put out the fire. Everywhere in America, communities got together back in 1800s
yeah,
and formed fire departments. They had a little extra property tax to pay for that. People do those common sense things.
yeah,
Sheriffs, policemen, roads, people do those things. We don't have to worry about it all fall apart. What we don't need is this empire in DC who's now turning around and using money against the American people. And you know what? Something else, Kim? Right now, people are woken up with the Trump trials, with the January 6th demonstrators being attacked viciously, and the BLM, Black Lives Matter people destroyed the scot-free. They're seeing, wow, the federal government is really out of control.
yeah,
They really are our enemies. You know what? I knew that 30 years ago. The Department of Injustice has been corrupt since at least 1913 because they wrote the laws deceptively, knowing the people of the 50 states will have to pay income tax, but they enforced it as if you do have to pay income
yeah.
tax. It's
Is
about time for people to wake up.
You've mentioned that the Constitution, does this only apply to American citizens? So could you have gotten away with this before you were an American citizen?
Yeah, because I'm not from DC. The income tax applies only to citizens and residents of DC. I used to live in LA and Orange County and San Bernardino. I was not part of District of Columbia, so I don't have to pay income tax as a foreigner, green card holder, or American citizen.
But when you lived here in California, you paid state tax.
No, because
How-
California follows federal law and federal definitions. So I didn't
What?
file state either.
So you don't have to pay state tax in California. Are there certain states you do have to pay taxes in because they don't follow federal law?
Yes, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Alabama, Mississippi and Arkansas. Only
That's
those
it?
5 states have independent from federal definitions and forms that you have to pay income tax. They don't piggyback on the federal system.
So you're saying that for myself as a California resident, I don't have to, as long as I don't file California taxes and I don't file federal taxes, I just don't file the papers, that I don't have to pay any taxes in this state or to the country. They just would collect my sales tax, right? When I go shopping and when I get gas at the pump, right? I pay taxes here and there on a variety of things that consumption taxes. Would
Mhm.
there be any other tax I'd have to pay other than consumption?
Property tax,
Oh, right. Yeah, I hate
sales
property
tax,
tax. To
alcohol,
me, that's
tobacco.
one of the worst things out there is property tax.
Well, property tax is a foundation tax that paid for a local sheriff and a prosecutor and a judge to keep bad guys away. You watch your westerns, you see John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, who paid for the sheriff. They paid the property owners in the area paid a little bit for that. But the problem is we become socialist, and now the tax rates are so high,
Yeah.
they become oppressive to pay for all the socialist stuff. Like California requires you to have health insurance, so you got to become poor again, just like Canada, just like Europe, who's become socialist. That's what makes America so great. You don't have to stay in California. You can bring your grandma and your mom to Florida, and like me, live free in a free state of Florida if you choose or not.
Well, you're saying I could live in California for free.
You could, but remember, California is a lawless, communist country. Okay, the courts there are so corrupt they deliberately, knowingly ignore the law. The federal courts are much better. I mean, I hate to say it, but I saw California go down since 1980s very fast. It wasn't this bad. I'm 61 years old, and it's very sad. They want to turn America into communism, but they don't call it communist.
Right.
It's called Democrat. But same thing.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about California though is, I mean, in my experience of working with the IRS and working with the California Tax Board, is that the California Tax Franchise Board is the mob. I mean, they will
Yes.
come after you if you don't file and pay taxes for 1 year. They will. There was one time, I don't remember what exactly the issue was, where I think I had filed, but I'd owed them, it was like a measly $150. I mean, it was literally like 100 and they said it was 800, but then when I did, this was like 10 years ago, when I did when I then ended up filing. So this was before I filed. When I then ended up filing, it ended up I only owed them $150 actually, right? But they were trying to say $800. But even for the $800, I mean, I woke up one morning with a message on my phone that said, "We have confiscated every last dime you have." I mean, they don't quite say it like that, but they pretty much do. They're like, "Hello, good morning. It's the California mob, and we have now completely seized your bank accounts. We have frozen everything. You can't access your credit cards. You can't access your bank accounts. You have no money. You need to call us." And I went around frantically looking at all my bank accounts, looking at the credit cards. Everything was zeroed out. The credit card says you can't be used. I had to call the California Tax Franchise Board. When I called them, the guy, it sounded like a mobster. He's like, "What took you so long? You know, why didn't you call us earlier? You could have just handled this earlier." And then I gave him his money and they opened up my bank accounts again. Then when I did the filing, they had to send me a check back. They had to send me like $700 back.
Mhm.
But it was all over a measly $150 that they shook me down like the mob. I mean, it was insane. Whereas the IRS, I feel like is a lot easier to work with. Maybe because they know you don't really have to pay these federal taxes.
Well, the IRS is a very failing organization. They're in terrible shape. IRS, they force collections or levies and garnishments of people's bank accounts and paychecks has gone down in over the last 13 years by over 90%.
Hey guys, thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show, which you could catch just by heading to that link down below, KimIversonShow.com. You can watch the full show from what you just watched, or you could catch the full show live Monday through Friday, live streams, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. See you then. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Never miss an episode. Never miss a clip. Never miss a segment. Thanks, guys.